Most role playing games present choices as power fantasies. Choose the good side, choose the evil side, save the world, get the best ending. But Radiata Stories does something very different. Instead of asking players which side is morally correct, it asks a far more painful question: who are you willing to lose? At the center of Radiata Stories is one of the most emotionally difficult decisions in classic RPGs: the choice between siding with humanity or siding with the non human races. And what makes this choice memorable is that neither side feels entirely right. There's no perfect solution, no route where everyone survives happily, no ending untouched by a sacrifice. I am Existential Thinker, and today we're looking at why the central choice in Radiata Stories works so well, how the game builds emotional attachment before forcing division, and why its conflict feels tragic instead of heroic.
The keen eye of Lord Larks has identified a young hopeful with a great deal of potential. Ta-dam! Jack Russell!
Oh, no way! Why me? I lost the first round.
Jack, as Junzaburo mentioned, you have been chosen not because of what you can do for us now, but what you can do in the future. Understand that you are now one of the Knights of the Kingdom. Bear yourself accordingly and serve it well.
Before the game ever asks the player to make a difficult decision, Radiata Story spends hours building attachment to its world, and that is extremely important. The city of Radiata is not just a hub area, it feels alive. Citizens follow schedules, characters have routines. People eat, work, sleep, argue, and socialize. The game contains hundreds of recruitable characters, each with distinct personalities and daily habits. This creates something rare for RPGs of its era: a sense that the world exists independently of the player. At first, the tone feels lighthearted, comedic even. The protagonist, Jack Russell, is immature, energetic, and often reckless. The early story focuses on friendship, adventure, and the dream of becoming a knight. The game feels warm, comfortable, and that warmth is what makes the latter choice hurt. Because the player does not simply choose between factions, the player chooses between people they've grown attached to.
Far out! Dwarves live in a crazy place like this? It's like a theme park. This is gonna be fun.
This idiot really thinks we're on some kind of picnic.
Yup.
Eventually, the game reaches its defining moment. Jack must choose whether to side with humanity or with the non human races. At first glance, this sounds like a standard fantasy conflict. Humans represent civilization, order, and political authority. Non humans, elves, dwarves, fairies, goblins, dragons, represent the mystical world tied to nature and ancient balance. But Radiata Stories refuses to simplify the conflict into good versus evil. Neither side is completely innocent, and neither side is completely wrong. That ambiguity is what makes the decision emotionally difficult. If the player sides with humanity, Jack protects the society he grew up in. He remains connected to familiar institutions, friends, knights, the structure of ordinary life. But humanity is also driven by fear: fear of the unknown, fear of losing control, fear of beings they cannot fully understand. As tensions rise, human society becomes increasingly rigid and hostile towards non human races. So, siding with humanity means accepting the possibility that civilization itself may be deeply flawed. But siding with the non human races is not easy either. The route means rejecting human institutions entirely. Jack aligns himself with races that humans increasingly view as dangerous or alien, and in doing so, he becomes separated from many former allies. Characters the players spend hours bonding with suddenly becomes enemies. The game forces the player to understand something painful. There's no route where everyone stays together.
Are you guys completely psycho or what? We weren't doing anything.
I believe that the ones playing Psycho are you humans.
What makes the choice especially effective is that the game frames it emotionally rather than ideologically. This is not really a story about political systems. It's a story about relationships collapsing under pressure. The central emotional core of the conflict revolves around Ridley Silverlake. Ridley gradually becomes tied to forces beyond ordinary human understanding. As her connection to the non human world deepens, she becomes symbolic of the widening divide between humanity and the mystical races. Jack's choice becomes inseparable from his relationship with her, and that changes the emotional tone completely. The player is not choosing abstract morality, they are choosing belonging, choosing identity, choosing who they are willing to stand beside, even it means losing everyone else. That makes the decision feel tragic instead of empowering. Most RPGs treat branching paths as rewards for player freedom. Radiata Stories treats its split as emotional sacrifice.
It's been a long time, Dinus.
It's you.
Who's he?
The Lion of the West, otherwise known as Gawain. You must be Jack, son of the Dragon Slayer. Cairn.
You're the one.
The human side of the conflict is built around preservation and control. The kingdom wants stability, order, security, and on some level, that desire is understandable. The non human races possess enormous power tied to magic, nature, and ancient forces beyond human understanding. Many humans genuinely believe they are protecting civilization. That realism is important because the game never portrays ordinary humans as cartoon villains. Instead, it shows how fear slowly transforms societies. The more humanity tries to protect itself, the more defensive and exclusionary it becomes. Fear hardens into prejudice. Political survival becomes more important than coexistence. And eventually, preserving civilization starts to justify cruelty. This reflects a very human tendency. When societies feel threatened, they often cling more tightly to hierarchy and control. The tragedy of the human root is that it feels believable. Players can understand why people are afraid, even if they disagree with how humanity responds to that fear.
Damn you, Cross! Did you see that, Jack? The humans have won. We can't possibly lose now. We can wipe them out. Goblins, elves, all the non-humans. We will trample them into the dirt like cockroaches. Just like we did with your Adele.
The non human root represents something very different. It is tied to coexistence with the mystical world, nature, ancient balance, magic older than human civilization. In many ways, this path feels spiritually correct. The game strongly suggests that humanity's expansion and fear are damaging the world's harmony. But the non human root comes with its own emotional cost. Choosing this side means abandoning familiarity. Jack becomes alienated from human society. Places that once felt like home no longer welcome him. Friends become opponents. relationships fracture. And this is where Radiata Stories becomes emotionally devastating. The game weaponizes attachment because the world feels alive. Losing access to parts of it feels painful. The player remembers characters, their schedules, their personalities, their routines. So when the story divides the world in half, it feels less like choosing a faction and more like losing a part of a community. That emotional loss is what gives the choice lasting weight.
Uh-oh!
You fool! I was just playing along with your little farce to buy some time.
Oh, darn.
Ha! The tables are turned now. Time for you to get what you deserve, kidnapper.
At its core, Radiata Stories is not really about good versus evil. It's about separation. The game quietly suggests that humans and non humans were already drifting apart long before Jack makes his decision. Fear, pride, misunderstanding, political pressure, all of those forces push the world towards division. Jack does not create the conflict, he simply becomes trapped inside it. And that makes the story feel tragic because there's no single villain causing everything. Instead, the conflict emerges naturally from two worlds slowly losing the ability to understand one another. That feels painfully realistic. Many fantasy stories imagine coexistence as simple. Radiata Stories treats coexistence as fragile, something that can collapse gradually through fear and mistrust. And once that collapse begins, even good people becomes trapped inside it.
The power of humans is truly an awesome thing.
We are powerful because we protect the people we love. The desire to protect those that we love gives us purpose.
You may be right. You humans, you have no need for guardians anymore.
The choice in Radiata Stories remains memorable because it understands something many RPGs do not. A painful decision is not difficult because one option is evil. It is difficult because every option costs something meaningful. The player is forced to choose between worlds they care about. Humanity offers familiarity, stability, and loyalty, but also fear and exclusion. The non human side offers harmony with the mystical world, but demands separation from the life Jack once knew. And no matter which path the player chooses, something valuable is lost. That is why the decision still resonates years later. Not because it determines who wins, but because it forces the player to confront the tragedy of division itself. In the end, Radiata Stories is not about saving everyone. It is about realizing that some worlds break apart slowly, and sometimes growing up means choosing which pieces you can no longer hold on to. Most horror stories focuses on the monsters and grotesque creatures, but in The Evil Within, the concept of reality crumbling via technology called STEM is far more horrific. I am Existential Thinker, and thanks for watching.